Hi everyone, I am Rosana Jatobá. I'm very happy to mediate such interesting conversations about purposeful innovation. Festival Nova Club em Casa will now discuss sustainable management and diversity with Santander Brazil advisor Deborah Wright. Deborah, it's a pleasure to have you. How are you? I'm great. It's a pleasure. Thank you, Rosana. It's a pleasure to be here in Nova Clubbing with purpose and sustainability. Deborah, you are a member of the management board of one of the most important banks in the country. And we know management boards are where guidelines are created for business. Unfortunately, you are still a rare example because female participation is around 9% in these boards in Brazil. How do you feel and what's the relevance of female participation in top management? Well, Rosana, we have made progress, but you're right, we are still a minority. We are currently at 11% regarding female participation in Brazil in open capital companies. At Santander, we aim at 30%. We believe minorities or underrepresented majorities must correspond to 30% to be heard. And we are already 30% of women in Santander's board, although this is an example of excellence and still an exception. But there are many benefits. Diversity is very important for us to have cognitive diversity, different opinions, plurality, a larger representativeness of the consumer market, complementary visions, different experiences between board members. All of this makes for a richer board. In the case of women, what are the capabilities that make women essential in top management? But for women, to be a board member or even be the CEO of a company, of course, you must have a trajectory, you must have some background. And we now have several women building careers who will be future advisors and are preparing for that. And women tend to show a lot of empathy, which is very, very important. They also show attention to detail. And women do not hesitate to ask more detailed questions, such as, I did not understand, could you repeat? And this attention to detail may bring to the surface things that were not apparent, and this may lead to a change in gears in the discussion. So I would say attention to detail, empathy. Overall, women tend to be less tolerant to risk than men, and it's interesting in these teams to see that they are complementary, that competences are complementary, because sometimes it's important to be prudent. So I believe the greater the diversity, the richer the team. And what keeps women from reaching the top of the ladder in a company? Maybe the difficulties involved in playing several roles? For sure. We have both things. There are some personal decisions that must be respected, and difficulties such as combining maternity and work, because the age range in which maternity and professional development occur tends to be the same. And at this time, there will be lots of professional demands. So things may really get complicated, but the company can also prepare to deal with this inclusion through mentorships, for example. Now that we are working from home office, things became much easier. Well, they may be more difficult because you have to do everything at home, but it's also very helpful if you have a partner who can help you. If, oh, you take care of the baby, now I have to work. So I think this is how we are going to end up solving these problems. And the company may also adopt different models, such as flexible working schedule. So several things that are now possible that did not exist 40 years ago when I started out. At that time, everything happened in person. We used that classical model, and now with the knowledge-based economy and digitalization, a lot of things are changing. So I believe we are going to see more and more women, which is great because this means more talents for companies. This environment of profound transformations requires mentorship, as you said. I'd like you to talk about this program, Women in Board, a program you created in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, aimed at promoting this exchange of experience between advisors and business people. I was one of the, well, I was a co-founder with IVGC, and we are already with our fifth group. The name is now PEDEC, and it's a very successful program. Just for you to have an idea, this fifth group, which started this year, for this group, we had 800 candidates, and Spencer Stewart is working in the selection for us. And what we are seeing is young women, women who are at the C-level in executive boards, and they are already preparing for a career as advisors in the future. And this is fantastic because they learn, they prepare, and they acquire the necessary competences. We exchange ideas, and that's where mentors are very helpful, not only to open doors and make introductions, but also by exchanging experiences, life experiences. So this is a very successful program that has been growing with every new edition. And I can tell you we have a fantastic group of potential new advisors for companies. I'd like to change gears a bit to talk about innovation. How much do you think diversity and inclusion contribute to an innovative, collaborative environment and also to performance? I can tell you this, it's very important. I cannot see, let's say, from a strategic standpoint, to me, diversity, inclusion, and equity are strategic needs for organizations. Why? Because innovation is about having the right people, having access to the best talents. And in order to have access to the best talents, if you remain, let's say, in your half of the pool, the more homogeneous part, from where we tend to select, let's say, men, Caucasian men who went to the same universities, you end up with a more linear way of thinking, maybe less inquisitive. So, if you have talents from different backgrounds, in the case of women, diversity of gender, also diversity of race, different sexual orientations, this diverse pool of talents will make things more interesting because you will be able to see that these people work in a creative manner, a better manner as a team, provided the issue of inclusion is also discussed. Because it's not always easy. The colleague, the collaborator who is different must feel included, must feel he is part part of the group to achieve his full potential. I'd like to repeat something incredible. To echo Verna Meyer's words, she's the Chief Diversity Officer for Netflix, and she has given a fantastic definition. She said diversity is when you are asked to the party, and inclusion is when you are asked to dance. And for us to remember to ask the different member to dance is something that must be part of the culture of the company, a culture that will have a positive and interesting impact. Deborah, it seems to me there is a feedback loop, because innovation is not only about improving technology processes, there is also a human side. Without a doubt. First of all, people tend to associate the history of innovation with technology, but innovation has always been around. It's part of our history, and I like to quote Simon Sinek. I believe you've all heard of him. He said that the formula for innovation is lack of time plus lack of resources plus creativity. That's the formula for innovation. So basically a rephrasing of the old saying, that sentence that says that necessity is the mother of invention. Just think about the many changes brought about by the pandemic. We have advanced 5 years in 1 year. All processes were digitalized. And many things, many businesses were reinvented. And this happened basically through people, devoted people, creative people, people who made a difference, people who gave their best to keep their business alive, to be able to keep delivering results. Of course, technology helps, but in the end, people are the ones who make things happen. And in this environment brought about by the pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, do you think there was a rebirth of certain values? Yes, I do believe. A lot of things happen in technology. We are all aware of this. There is artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, virtual reality, augmented reality, games. We have avatars. We have different new financial platforms. Everybody wants to be an ecosystem. So lots of developments. And at the same time, I think the human side of things was emphasized. It's the 4 Ps. We know Americans love acronyms. So the 4 Ps stand for planet, profit, that's how we make money, purpose, which is the most important thing, and people. So the 4 things, and I believe the environmental aspect is central. And when we talk about ESG, E, environmental as social, G, governance, the S part includes diversity, inclusion, and equity. Not only because it's the ethically and morally right thing to do, but also because this will give you a competitive edge. You will be at the forefront in business. You will have a more committed team that will achieve better results. This is even a research topic. McKinsey studies in the last 5 years show that companies with more diversity in terms of gender, race, have better financial results relative to peers in the same industry who are less diverse. So that is proof it works. And I also think there is a demand on the part of our society. This is the time, the right time. We talk about the spirit of time, the zeitgeist. Today, we expect technology to have an impact. What is technology for? to improve the quality of life, of human life, to make our lives easier, to provide more relevant services. And I think there is this issue of impact capitalism, a large number of startups in this area, all of them super innovative. So to me, I wouldn't say rebirth exactly, but some values are coming to the surface. Just think about the pandemic. We have huge inequalities in this country, and this was emphasized during the pandemic. But also, we are seeing lots of solidarity, and we need to keep this alive because this makes us ask whether the capitalism model still stands. We don't know. We talk about stakeholder capitalism, a more conscious capitalism. I believe we are going through a moment of questioning, Rosana, which I think is positive. So, a breaking paradigm, isn't it, Deborah? During our offline conversation, you alluded to an interesting differentiation, and I'd like you to tell us the difference between the VUCA world and the bunny world. This is new for a lot of people, so I'd like to hear your thoughts about this, you who are so avid for new concepts. I think we've all heard of the VUCA world, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And now with the pandemic and all the changes, in particular the speed of change, we entered the bunny world. So bunny stands for brittle, anxious, nonlinear, and incomprehensible. Brittle for fragile and easy to break. Anxious, well, no need to explain. We are all feeling anxious, high levels of anxiety at this time. Non-linear, of course, because of all the algorithms, artificial intelligence, neural networks, linear logics no longer works. And what used to be ambiguous is now seen as incomprehensible. Just look at the pandemic, a virus that affects similar human beings in so many different ways. Some are mildly affected, others have severe disease, and others may even die. So in fact it is incomprehensible. People say that bunny is the new VUCA. We've moved to a different stage. And going back to everything we have discussed, the new concepts, values reborn, new paradigms, what will be your take-home message in this dynamic post-pandemic world? I'd say we must look strategically, thinking about long-term management, and to achieve a sustainable growth with due respect to issues that affect our planet, such as climate, the environment, and also social aspects, because we all know how important it is to be aware of the importance of diversity, to bring different talents to organizations. I'd say there are two very important qualities. Flexibility, because if it is incomprehensible, how can we plan for the future? We can no longer foresee things in a very precise manner. So we must define a direction, we start walking, and we make changes along the way as things develop, and we get to understand what's happening. And also resilience. Resilience and flexibility, because creativity, I believe, is overflowing at the moment. We've all changed very quickly. Everybody has a story. Traditional retail became e-commerce. There were changes in delivery services. And the Brazilian people are very creative. So to me, that's it. Resilience, flexibility, to progressively comprehend the incomprehensible. When I ask people which of the letters in the ESG acronym is more important, in Europe, specialists say it's governance, and in Brazil, it's the S for social. What do you think?
Nossa, pergunta difícil. Eu acho
What a difficult question. It's
difícil que os
difficult
três
because
sejam
all
importantes.
three
A
are
governança
important.
com a questão da
Governance because of
transparência,
transparency.
sabe, você
You
ter
must be very
os
transparent
resultados
when it comes to
transparentes, a
results.
questão da
There is
ética,
ethics,
a questão
there is
de prestação de
accountability.
contas,
So to me, this
e
is
isso é
very
super
important.
importante. A
Governance
governança é
is a very
aspecto
serious
extremamente sério.
issue.
Nem
Needless to
precisa
say, we
dizer que a
have
questão
a lot of
ambiental, a
ground to
gente
cover
tem
in the
muito por
environmental
evoluir.
aspect,
Temos
and
aí
we
uma
have the opportunity. I would say
oportunidade, eu diria,
Brazil has the unique
oportunidade
opportunity of
única
being
de ser
the
o
major
celeiro
global
verdes do
grain
mundo. Eu acho que
producer,
não
not only
só, né, o celeiro
regarding
em
the
termos
amount
de
produced,
ter
but
a
also
maior
due to
produção de
the huge
alimentos para o mundo,
opportunities
mas o
that we
celeiro
have
verde,
to
porque a gente
be
tem
such a
muita
producer.
oportunidade.
As to the
E a questão
social aspect,
social,
I think
eu acho que eu vou
this
ficar com
is my
essa
pick,
questão
if
social
I
com
must
você, se você
have
me
one,
obrigar, porque
because we have
temos
huge
aí uma
historical
desigualdade
inequalities
grande,
in Brazil,
nossa,
and we
de
must
anos para
bridge
tirar.
this gap.
Mas acho que
And to
vamos.
me, the time
O
is
momento é
now. I
agora.
think we
O
have the
momento é
opportunity
agora e eu
to
acho que é a
break this
oportunidade da gente
paradigm,
fazer.
as you said.
Débora, adorei conversar com você.
Deborah,
Conversa
what a
gostosa,
great,
proveitosa,
enjoyable
cheia de aprendizado.
conversation, full
Anotei
of
aqui, ó, vários
lessons.
pontos
I
que você
took several
trouxe.
points
Que
down,
bom.
points that you
Nosso
brought up,
discurso ao longo do festival.
and certainly you haven't
Beijo
reached
e eu
our
espero te
festival.
encontrar numa próxima
I look forward
oportunidade.
to seeing
Olha,
you again.
será um prazer,
It will
obrigada.
be a
Foi um papo
pleasure.
muito gostoso.
Thank you very
Se eu
much. I also
contribuir
enjoyed
para, no
very
mínimo,
much, and I
estimular o
hope I
pessoal a
have
pensar
contributed
pouco.
to make
Eles que
people
estão
think,
na
those
batalha do
who
dia a
are
dia,
there in the
têm
battlefield
todo o meu
and for
respeito.
whom I have deep
É
respect.
isso.
Thank you,
Muito obrigada e até
and
uma
until next
próxima.
time.
Muito bem, gente. É sempre
It's
muito bom
always great
falar, né,
to
sobre a
talk
presença
about
das mulheres
female
no mercado,
participation
ainda
in the
mais
market
com uma pessoa como a
with
Débora,
somebody
né, que
like
sempre nos
Deborah, who
orgulha,
is such
tem
an
tanto
amazing woman
conteúdo para
with
compartilhar
so
com a
much knowledge
gente.
to
Se você
share.
está
If you're
curtindo,
enjoying,
fica por aí que tem muito
don't go
mais.
away.
Até já.
See you shortly.